Hi, this is Phil Colcord with Fraternal Order Police, Evergreen Lodge 1st, and this is our outreach program. With me, I have the honor today to have the Chief of Police of Bremerton, Thomas Wolfe. Hello, Thomas. Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Well, Phil, I've been doing law enforcement for about 35 years now. I am a graduate from Washington State University, and I also have my master's degree from Xavier. And in 2001, I was asked to take over as chief in Bremerton when our chief retired.
You were a captain there then?
I was a captain, and I've spent my whole career in Bremerton. And took over, and we've been going forward ever since.
Oh, good, good. What year did you start then?
1988.
88,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you were there then when I was at the sheriff's office.
Yeah. I've been around a little while.
Yeah, hard to believe I'll be retired 28 years come December 13th of this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, long time. Anyway, so the police departments across the country are, they're having staffing problems. And is Bremerton Police Department experiencing that? And what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, actually, we are. We're about 9 people down from where we should be right now. We're set for 64, and we're below that at 53. We're hiring constantly, and we're doing all we can to get caught up.
Now, when you hire someone, it takes a while to get them trained, though, too, right?
It's quite a process. It's not like Best Buy or something like that, where the manager interviews you and then offers you the job. It's quite a process. We have a civil service process that we go through, starting with the application process, and then we interview people from there. We rank them that pass the interview process. And then we start a background process. There's polygraphs, medicals, psychologicals. If you get through all of that, then it's the police academy for 5 months. And when you come out of the police academy, you're in field training with an officer on the different shifts for about 3 months, 3+ months. So it's quite a process.
Yeah, it takes a long time to get them
And
ready to
and
go.
it's taking right now. One of the things we're running into is even if we hire someone, we can't get them into the police academy for 6 to 12 months. So
that's a year that they can't be. They'll still be useful to help, but you don't get full value out of an officer.
No. We do everything we can to set them up for success during that time. We put them out to see with our best people and really see how the job is done by people that are really good at it.
Do you think law enforcement is a good choice career?
I actually do. And I heard it said the other day, and it really resonated with me, that in this day and age, everybody's telling people to find happiness. You need to find happiness. And happiness isn't enough. It's find meaning in your life. And I believe, and the people that I get to work with, especially the young people coming into law enforcement right now, they have meaning, they have purpose. And when you have that meaning, when you have your purpose, and when you get to serve others, it's a higher calling than just trying to serve yourself and find your happiness. I've noticed that this next generation that resonates. Once they get in and understand what we really do and get past some of the stigmas and stuff, they're like, this is where I belong.
And I understand completely, because to me, it was always a vocation. I mean, it's something that, I've said cops are peacemakers. And the way they keep the peace is by protecting the people, enforcing the laws, and also by serving the people. And the biggest part, the biggest reward comes in the service part.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Well, when you've done something, that no one else gets to do those things, and it's you're not going to be in the newspaper, you're not going to get accolades, but you can look in the mirror and I'm happy with that, and that's huge.
That's good to hear, because you're seeing those people. I don't have that in my life, that I can see these young people, and what I see of it is they seem, a lot of the young people, I'm not talking police, I'm just talking young people, seem self-serving rather than trying to serve other people. And I know they go through that in a phase growing up, but it seems like it's more prevalent now than it was, back in our generation. Or
Yeah, and our department is very new. We're 2/3 of our patrol division are less than 2 years on right now, and these young guys and gals they're pretty amazing. As far as people that I would want to work the street with, I've never had a group better than what we have right now.
That's a good thing to hear.
And they're probably our best recruiting tool, because people come in and get to go for a ride along and they get to meet the people that they would be working with, and they're like, hey, there's something special going on here. Wow, these guys they're just different than I thought they would be. Even the community meetings we go to, people, it's like, we are the community. We live with you. We go to church with you. We coach your kids' soccer team. We do all these things. We're part of the community also. And when you take away that kind of us and them, and you start putting names with faces, it really changes the dynamic.
Well, I think the population growth has really hurt law enforcement in that respect, because it used to be that you weren't running call after call, and you had time on your beat. You could go into the tavern and talk to people. You go in the barber shop, and you go just talk to people. And so you got to know people a lot better, but you didn't have as many people to deal with, so it made it easy.
I completely agree. I think the biggest, the worst thing we ever did was 911, and probably the best thing we ever did was 911. But what 911 did to community policing was it kind of put a stop to it. Mm-hmm. In Washington State, we are, one of the things that people don't realize is Washington State has the fewest officers per capita of any state in the union. Mm-hmm. So we're already at the lowest numbers in the entire union. When you hear about programs, I used to get kind of frustrated, especially as a chief, of, you hear about this program and that program. Well, when I started looking at who was doing those programs, well, there's some of those other agencies that have, like their staffing is 2.4 per thousand. We're at 1.4 per thousand. Mm-hmm. So when you have that kind of staffing, you can do those kind of programs. But you still have to come up with something. So what we've done in Bremerton is we've taken guys out of the 911 loop and untied them from having to respond to 911. And then we focus them on whatever problems we're having. We call it our directed enforcement team, or our Dept team. And they get to have that one-on-one with the citizens. People in problem areas get to know them. We put them out on the bikes quite a bit. And my whole career in Bremerton, that has been the one thing that has changed crime and problems the most, is when we untie officers from 911 and we just let them focus and saturate a problem. And we make a big difference in our community when we do that.
That's good to hear. I like hearing that, because toward the end of my career, the deputies were going one call after another, and we had put on mid-shift to come in to try to take up some of the slack, and we just about get on top of it, and then it started all over again. I mean, you didn't have any time to do anything except answer calls.
Yeah, I remember those early 90s to early 2000 time, and it was call to call every day, all day.
Yeah.
And we didn't get to spend the time that we needed to.
No, you didn't. So, and we lost Dare, which actually was good, because then we had an officer in the school, so the kids got to know. And when we lost that bridge between us and the young kids, I think, a lot.
Well, I know the sheriff's office has had a very robust school resource officer program. Mm-hmm. So much so that I want to say it was Olympic High School had their SRO do the graduation speech for him, because he was part of that school in a way that, and I think it really broke down what you hear about, we need to get the cops out of the schools. And it was completely the opposite mm-hmm. of that. It was these kids had a figure that they could trust and they relied upon. They felt safe. They could confide in that person. And it was actually a huge benefit. And I know CK School District has continued to really support that. So that's outstanding.
Yeah, I agree. So we touched on the hiring process. It looks like in that process, what are you're looking for in individuals? How do you
I look for people that have a heart of service. They understand this is a service-oriented profession. When you start talking to people and it's like, well, how much do I get paid and what do I get? And it's all about that. If you want to be rich,
Go somewhere
go
else.
somewhere else. You're not going to get rich in law enforcement. And I know early in my life, I was headed for law school. And I got to do an internship with the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. And once I got to see what the deputies were doing out on the street, I said, it was my calling. I knew what I wanted to do. I've never looked back. I've never regretted it.
Good.
And the young men and women that I work with, they're there to make a difference and they feel like they're doing it. I think the last few years has been very frustrating for them because they feel like they can't, protect and serve their community like they think they should be doing it. And we're just having to find new and creative ways to do that.
No, I understand that completely. What's something that people don't know about law enforcement?
Oh gosh, I've touched on a couple. I think one of the things that people don't realize is how few we have in Washington State. That we're very low staffed, both the state patrol, the counties, and the municipalities.
And I got nothing bad to say about fire department here, but I'm going to just, when I started back in the early 70s, the fire department were all volunteers. And we were all cross-trained with EMTs because they'd had very little experience from when they sent an aid unit out back then. And you look at the police department back in the early 70s, you look at the fire department, and we were progressed a lot more than the fire department. And it's like we moved up a little bit, but the fire department's done really well. I mean,
They have. I will say that I'm aware of a couple of officers that when everything started kind of going really differently in Washington State, they left the service and went to the fire service, and both of them have now returned to law enforcement. So I of course tease our fire chief quite a bit because I always say, well, they want to work for a living. So, but no, our fire department, I'm really,
well, I have nothing
really
bad
lucky.
about saying.
I'm really lucky. Our fire department are they're go-getters. They're good people, and they're great to work with. So, but we're cats and dogs. We got to tease each other every chance we get. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, one of the irony of that is my captain that passed away a couple of years ago now, Terry Miller, his son became a fireman. And his schoolmate and his schoolmate's best son, they were best friends. He was a fireman, and his son became a cop.
Well, one parent raised their child right, so that's good.
Yeah. Anyway, so how backed up do you get with your detective division?
Well, boy, that's been a tough one. We're pretty much only working crimes against people right now. Major our homicides, rapes, assaults, robberies. The property crimes are having to be dealt with at the lower level. As we're trying to grow the department, we will add more detectives because we need to chase down property crime because that bleeds into everything else. And when you can go out and pick off your prolific car thieves and put them in jail, suddenly your crime rates everywhere in the county drop. But we're doing that through patrol divisions and working. We also have really great partnerships with all of the agencies. Probably it would be different from probably when you worked and you'd go, wow, that's really cool to see all this collaboration between all the departments, not just in Kitsap County. We bleed over into Shelton and Mason County, and our detectives and our officers get together with all the car thieves that we've had. We're all talking to each other, working together, and then we're sharing all this information, and we're making it harder and harder on these people. We have to play more of a long game. Sure, we can't chase them right now, but we will find them, and we do, and we're putting them in jail right and left. So it takes longer, and it's kind of frustrating, but we're getting there.
What's King County or Seattle area? They have to catch them 7 times before they can arrest them or something?
I That's the first I've heard that. That's
Yeah, one of my speakers told me about that, and I was appalled at that they
wouldn't surprise me in King County.
have to do that, and then they have to write them a citation the first time that, when they do it.
Yeah.
And that's not going to deter it,
No, we have a prosecutor who prosecutes here, so
good.
that's good.
And how does this affect your arresting, the new laws that have come in?
Well, I guess one of the biggest thing is probably the amount of time we spend. We spend a lot more time. We use more officers on a call. Like in your time, you would have gone one, maybe two deputies. We're sending 3 and 4 officers. We're spending a lot of time talking people down. If we have a navigator working, we'll bring the navigator over and see if they can get a rapport going with people. And so we'll tie up a lot of officers for quite a bit more time. And when we're there, and we focus on that. So the call volume builds up and people get frustrated because they're waiting for an officer to respond. And that's just the byproduct of how we have to do business in 2023.
And what's the future look like for staffing as far as you're 64? That's, I'm sure, is under the amount you should have.
Yeah, that's our comp plan calls for 1.8 officers per 1,000. That would put us up about 77 officers. So we are understaffed. We are, in fact, the fire chief and I tonight are talking to our council about running a levy in 2024 so that we can up staffing in both departments to get us just to minimums so that we can provide the proper service. I know in 2007, we had 66 officers and about a 35,000 population. Today in Bremerton, we have a 45,000 population. We only have 64 officers. So we haven't caught up. We're going in the wrong direction. And if you look at the projections for like 2036, we're looking at like 55,000 people in Bremerton. So we have to plan for the future and grow.
And how's your homeless problem inside the city there?
Because we have the most services, I think you see the most homeless people kind of concentrated around the services. We actually do a pretty good job working with people. People that want to find shelter, we're getting them into shelter. The problems that we're seeing are actually more around drug abuse and behavioral health issues.
And how hard is it to, if you got a chemical dependency person that's out of control, how hard is it for you to take them into custody and get them some help? I mean, you're restricted more than I think you were in my day.
Yeah, well, part of the problem is we just don't have the beds for people. If they've committed a crime, we still have to triage them through the hospital so that they can then go to the jail. So there's a trip to Silverdale from Bremerton. We sit on them if they're violent, and then we take them back down to the jail. If they haven't committed a crime, a lot of times, unfortunately, you're letting them walk away, and you're watching them. I can think of several people that I've talked to over the last 6-7 months, and you watch them deteriorate, and that's really sad. We've got to start creating beds and places for them to be so that they can get the help they need.
Well, it also creates an inner conflict for the officer because, if they're a danger to themselves or others, now they may not be obviously a danger to others, but a lot of them are a danger to themselves, but there's nothing you can do you don't have the resources to, and you're not allowed to if they haven't actually committed a crime.
Yeah, in the last year when I was out on bike patrol, it was definitely a rude awakening to, I remember one fellow in particular, his name was Cody, and he had a needle in his arm when we came across him. And in the past, we could have arrested him for the felony amount of drugs he had on him, and we couldn't arrest him. He wasn't doing anything that was against current law in Washington. And we talked to him, and he's had several friends die from fentanyl overdoses. He knew he was at great risk to die from an overdose. and as much as we tried to convince him and talk with him, and he knew he needed to get help, it was just, well, not today. And I keep looking at the reports, waiting to see if he comes across my desk as someone that's overdosed. Because that's
It's sad.
If we could have arrested him, again, he's not going to prison. He's going into treatment.
Right.
The court can then order that and give them the push that they need. And that's what we're missing.
I think we need some laws that address treatment. People don't want them put in jail. I can understand that to some degree. They haven't committed a crime, but they're dying. And so you need something that you can help them with. We're running out of time here. We touched on this a little bit, but what is your department doing to promote community relationships?
Well, I talked a little bit about our Dept team. That's probably one of the biggest things. Another thing we do is we have what we call PACT. It's people and community together, and it's hosted by one of our local churches, Pastor Richmond Johnson of Mount Zion Baptist Church. And he kind of facilitates, and we bring in people really from everywhere in our community. In fact, it's gotten so big that we're talking to, we have Bainbridge and Paulsville residents coming down and joining our community meetings. And we're like, you need to start your own PAC meeting. I want to talk to my people. And so it's spreading throughout the whole county. And that's a good thing.
That's a good thing, yeah.
And we have, we begin conversations. We don't get to, we only have so much time. And then we're really good about, we'll bring in the prosecutor, we'll bring in someone from mental health, we'll bring in, the chief, the sheriff, and talk about the different things that are going on in that our community has direct access in these meetings. And they don't hold back. They ask the hard questions, which we like. And they get to hear straight from us. And you know if you're getting the straight scoop or not, usually when you're one-on-one with people like that. And then after the meetings is when the magic happens, because now you get to have those in-depth conversations.
And they're ready to socialize with you.
And the other thing, just kind of my final thought with you is, my mission for my officers is, and I tell them this all the time, everybody at the end of the day, at least one or two people need to know you by your first name.
That's a good thing.
Because when I'm Tom and you're Phil, that changes the dynamic. If it's just the cops, you're nameless, faceless, and you can dehumanize. But when it's, I know Tom, it really makes a difference in your community.
No, that's true. That's a good thing to teach them. So, I thank you for coming. Appreciate having you, and you're welcome anytime. We'll have you back again. There's a lot of important stuff that the people don't understand and need to know to address, so that we're only as good as the people that back us, and we need their support in getting programs that are constructive, that help the society instead of hurt them. So thank you for coming, and that's our show. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back again down the road. Have a great day and stay safe out there.
Mm-hmm.